Hi, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome. So, today is Wednesday, so that means we will be talking about the newest episode of Riverdale, which was titled Citizen Lodge. So, like always, I have it all written on my phone, which sucks because I always have to pause things and write them down. I have a lot of thoughts in this episode, but it also kind of made me very, very excited. And it also gave me a little bit of high hope for Hiram's future. Well, for a short second, and then, that died. But first, let's give a little synopsis of what the episode was about. Michael Consuelos guest stars as young Hiram Lodge. Hiram shares with Reggie his origin story and how he went from a young Jaime Luna to the powerful kingpin of Riverdale. Elsewhere, Reggie reflects on his relationship with his father. I initially thought that meant we were going to get a little bit of flashbacks to their relationship, but we didn't. But I do like how they kind of resolved Reggie's relationship, and not all abuse ends that way, but a lot. But sometimes, very rare, sometimes people who are abused by their parents can change. People don't believe that that's true, but people can change. So, of course, we had Archie. Now, it says Archie was in the episode, but he actually wasn't. We just saw a young Fred Andrews. We saw a young Alice Smith. We saw a young Hermione Gomez. We also saw a young F.P. Jones. I don't know why it's not classifying Jughead as that. We saw a young Penelope Blossom. So, Mark Consuelos portrays Hiram Lodge, as well as his father, Javier Luna, in this episode. We didn't see Kevin's father as a young, but we did see Charles Melton portraying Marty Mantle in the flashbacks. And then Tony and Fangs and Tabitha and Alice were actually not in the episodes at all, because it's directly just between Reggie and Hiram. Actually, are really the only main characters, and then of course, Michael Consuelos portrays a young Hiram Lodge, and if you didn't know, Michael Consuelos is actually Mark Consuelos' son. So, Javier Luna is the actual father of Hiram Lodge. It's kind of confusing. And then, Marisol Nichols actually portrays Hermione's mother, which we find out her name is Apollonia Gomez. But, which I like that they did that, but that's a different story. But Hermione was also in the episode, so Marisol Nichols also guest starred as Hermione in this episode. What's weird is when we saw FP's father in the flashback scenes in the Midnight Club, it wasn't portrayed by Skeet Ulrich. But that's just that. And then... Oh, this episode premiere. Oh, so today is Madeline Petch's birthday. Oh, okay, so this is interesting. So this episode takes place after the Midnight Club 1992 flashbacks. It takes place... Okay, wait, what? I'm gonna have to look at that. Because one of the things I mentioned is that when we see that when the flashbacks first begin in this, it's labeled as 1988. So how can they take place after 1992? Honestly, a lot of people believe that the Midnight Club is completely wrong because they can't be in high school in the 90s and be 50 years old in 2018. It just doesn't make sense. So I do think 1992 is not actually when the Midnight Club takes place. But I do believe that this does take place after it. But another thing I'm going to mention in when I'm doing my synopsis or my overview is that they do show the Midnight Club characters as friends still. The Midnight Club teens are still hanging out after the Midnight Club, even though they decided to not be friends. But I guess you can still like hang out and not really be friends because they still go to the same school. But yeah, so that's interesting to know. So this episode is titled Citizen Lodge. We basically are gonna get the origin story of Hiram Lodge and how he went from Jaime Luna to Hiram Lodge, because even though he changed his name, I don't know what's going on. Even though he changed his name, we really don't know why he decided to change it and what the deal was with that. So we also find out that it's been 10 years since he became the tormentor of Riverdale. That's how Jughead phrases it in the narration. Wow, 10 years. That's pretty long. So it's revealed that Reggie actually works at Mantle Motors with his dad, and we get to see his dad. And I don't know if it's the same actor because he kind of looks different, but that could just be that they made him look older. So Reggie finally pays back Hiram for his father's debt. And we find out that he had to take out loans from Hiram because his business was in trouble. But Reggie wants to keep working for Hiram because he enjoys what Hiram is teaching him. And Hiram agrees to give him a bigger role that's paid if Reggie can get a gun for him. And he says yes right after my last shift at the car place. So during this, Reggie and his dad are trying to sell a car to, I guess, a high-paying client. And Mr. Mantle says, don't you want to do this one thing for your son? And it kind of gets the car guy upset. So Reggie takes over and starts talking about how your first car means something. And he starts talking about Bella. If you guys remember Bella. Bella was his car that Mr. Honey completely destroyed. Also, whatever happened to Mr. Honey? Because he left to go to Stonewall Prep. And we thought that was going to be something that they were going to continue. But they never really went back to that. But anyway, whatever happened to Bella during the 7 years? She was a 1960 Chevy. And she was working then. So, I don't know. So Reggie sells the car and his dad is mad because that was his sale. And he starts to threaten him and Reggie's like, "What? You gonna beat me like you used to?" And he's like, "I'm not in high school anymore. I'm not afraid of you." And Marty is basically saying that his dream for him is dead and he's just not the person he thought. This all occurs after Reggie reveals that he's going to continue to work for Hiram, and Marty's like, "What? No, don't. He's a gangster. He's a criminal." And that's when he says that he can't believe that's his son. And Reggie basically chose Hiram over his dad. So Marty ends up going to see Hiram, and when Reggie comes to give, so basically Marty is kind of threatening Hiram, saying, you better just stop it with my son and everything. Hiram says no, and when Reggie comes to give Hiram the gun, Hiram tells Reggie that his dad came to see him. So he goes to see his father again and says that his father says that he is ashamed of him and everything that he's doing. And so Reggie leaves Marty and tells Hiram that he has no father. So finally, Reggie starts asking Hiram about how he went from Jaime Luna to Hiram Lodge. And so Hiram tells him the story of his journey. So we get a flashback to New York City in 1988. Now, I don't know how long of a time between the beginning scene and when he actually starts working for the gangsters. But it says that this episode occurs, or the flashback occurs after the Midnight Club, so the Midnight Club can't be in 1992. But also, it begins in 1988 in New York City. So we have when he was in New York City in 1988, then we have the Midnight Club, and then But also, but we knew he was a gangster already in the Midnight Club. So what I think is we have the 1998 scene when he was in New York. Then we have the Midnight Club, which the Midnight Club actually is running after he first starts a job with the gangsters. And then we have the Midnight Club running at the same time as when he is working for the gangsters. But it's running before his father dies. I think. It says it's after. I don't know. It can't be after. It's all very confusing. But I think that the time they're playing with the Midnight Club is kind of running simultaneously between them. But anyway, so it's New York City, 1988. 1988. So we find out that Jaime Luna is from New York. And him and his dad are working as shoe shiners. And they're doing okay for themselves. People are nice. Well, one guy doesn't have money, so he gives them palladium. That's where we get the palladium. And he says that it can be worth $100. And that there's more in Riverdale. And he says Riverdale is a small town. And we find out that Riverdale is actually north of New York City, which means that Riverdale is actually closer to Canada than New York is. Well, of course, New York isn't close to Canada. But people always are like, well, where is Riverdale actually? Like, what state is it located in? Because it's in the United States. We do know it's in the United States on the East Coast. And now that we know it's north of New York City, but just south of Canada. Now, from New York, you can actually see Canada, the lake. But I think it might be in, like, Vermont, Riverdale, or the very north of New York City. And so they moved to Riverdale, and his dad gets a job mining to try to find the palladium, but a mines collapse and they shut down after 6 months. But they decide to stay in Riverdale because they enjoy it. So his mom becomes a waitress as Pops, and during that scene, we actually see a young Hermione and a young Alice eating together at Pop, which it also seems like they're eating with a young FP and a young Fred. So this has to be occurring, I don't know. It's kind of confusing because he's still known as Jaime then, but during the Midnight Club, he wasn't Jaime. But hopefully someone figures it out. So one day someone is getting there. His dad also went back to shoe shining, but it's not doing the best, not making the best money. Until one day this guy gets his shoe shine and gives Jaime an extra little tip. And I thought it was Papa Poutine, but it turns out it's just a guy named Vito. And he says, well, if you ever need some more work, come see me. So we actually find out that Jaime is crushing on Hermione, and she keeps on turning him down. Because her mom doesn't want her to date the son of a lowly shoe shiner. But then Jaime brings up the point that Hermione's mom is a housekeeper. She works at the Five Seasons cleaning. And Hermione just states that her mom just wants the best for her. But I can't believe she would say that, because what if someone told Hermione, well, I don't want my child dating the daughter of a housekeeper? But he's still known as Jaime at this time, so this is before he started dating Hermione, and we do know during the Midnight Club, he is currently dating Hermione, and he's also a gangster at that time, so this is occurring right before the Midnight Club. And so I think they're sophomores at this point. So that statement pushed him to go seek out Vito, and Vito makes him his drug runner, but it pays some good money. So after he has started running drugs for Vito, he has a whole new look, a whole new personality. more confident. And he asked Hermione out again, and she starts saying no, and then she sees his look, which seems kind of classist of her, but she agrees to go on a date with him, and they go to Pop's. We see a young Pop, which I think we saw in the Midnight Club episode, but he's telling her his plans for his future. He also tells her that he is working for Vito, and she knows that he's a gangster. So he says that his dream is to move back to New York, and own a penthouse while running his own business. And Hermione has the same dream of moving to New York. So, then Jaime, sorry, I keep on wanting to call him Jamie, but Jaime is arrested for drugs. And they're pressuring him to tell him who he gets the drugs from and what's going on. But Hermione ends up going to Vito, and Vito posts his bail. And because he doesn't want that to happen, and because Jaime protected Vito, he gives him a new position in the company and buys him a new car. So, he's deciding to change his name because he doesn't like what Jaime Luna gives him. And so he suggests Hiram Lot, because he's going to have a lot in life. I want to know how he got the name Hiram. I think because it sounds similar to Jaime. But Hermione says, no, you need something that people are going to want to know, and something that means something. So she suggests Lodge. Therefore, Hiram Lodge is born, and when he tells his teacher that his new name is Hiram Lodge, Reggie starts making some rude comments, and he goes and he beats up Reggie. I mean, not Reggie. Marty, sorry. He beats up Marty. So his father finds out, and he's interrogating him, saying, I know about you running with the gangsters, and you're getting in fights because people don't want to call you Hiram, and you need to stop this. And he's disappointed in his son. So then Jaime is horrible, and he says that being your son is embarrassing. But his father goes and sees Vito, and he tells him that it's over, and you are not going to be using my son anymore. And Vito says no. But Javier says that if you continue this and don't take me up on my offer, then I will call the police. So Vito says that he'll think it over. Well, Javier is getting ready for work at Pop's, and 3 guys shoot him, a drive-by, and he dies. It's assumed that Vito ordered the hit. So we have the funeral, and Hermione's mother shows up, which is played by actual Hermione, Marisol Nichols. We find out her name is Apollone, and she apologizes for what she said about Javier, being that he'll only be a lowly shoe shiner, and that he was a good person. So at this point, we also see the Midnight Clubs, because Alice is at the funeral, and she's talking with Hermione and Penelope. So we're not really sure about so we're not really sure how that's supposed to fit in with the Midnight Club episode. So I think this takes place during the time as Midnight Club characters or after it. But we know Fred's dad died. So I'm not exactly sure, but they're very close in time. It might be taking place during it, because we know the Midnight Club took place over a certain amount of time. We also knew that Hiram and Marty became friends. So I'm not really sure about it all, but so Vito comes to the funeral, and that's that. But Hiram tells his mother that he's done. He's done with the gangster. So Hiram goes off to kill Vito, but Vito's not there, and he ends up killing his 3 goons, one of which was the guy who shot Javier. And he knows that Vito ordered the shooting. Which I thought one rule of gangsters is you don't mess with each other's families. So we don't know where Vito is. It turns out that Vito skipped town and never returned, and Hiram took over his job. So basically, whatever Vito was doing, Hiram that's what he created Lodge Industries after. And he technically, I wrote down he lied to his mother. Technically, he didn't. He said that he would be done with Vito, and he was. He just became the new king of Riverdale. So he married Hermione, and they had Veronica, and Veronica was actually born in Riverdale, and then they moved to New York City because Hermione was like, let's finally move to New York, follow our dream. And also, at this point, Hermosa would have been born too, so he would have already created Lodge Industries, and Hermosa would have been born. So then we're back in the present. That's how the episode ends. And Reggie asked, well, why'd you return to Riverdale? Palladium. He returned for the Palladium. And that's why he built his prison over it. But now he needs to get access to the Palladium that he believes is under the Blossom Maple Groves. So we find out that Vito is actually in a nursing home, and that's why Hiram wanted the gun. So Hiram goes and he kills Vito to avenge his father. This was one of the kills that probably made the most sense. He was avenging his dad. And during this time, Hiram tells Reggie that he no longer needs Reggie, and that Reggie needs to go and make amends with his father. Because Hiram wished he had more time with his dad before he died. And I think telling the story of his evolution to King of Riverdale really made him see that, is this really what he wants in his life? He's got no friends, no family. He's feared, but no one likes him. And I think him telling Reggie is going to be a new start to a new Hiram. He tells him that this isn't the life that Reggie should have for himself. So we get a cute little moment with Reggie and Marty, and they start to repair their relationship. Marty apologizes for everything. And I guess they sort of decide to name the car place Mantle and Sons. We also never do find out if Reggie ever went to university. But, so Hiram is at home and he's watching something. He's watching Hermione and Veronica inside her apartment. And at first I thought that it was the Real Housewives in New York. But now I'm thinking that Hiram actually has her apartment bugged. So I think Hiram has a hidden camera at the Pembroke, and he's watching, and his family are talking about everything, and he sees how his family views him, and he basically knew that Hermione didn't like him, but he he hears Veronica talk about him and how he isn't the same guy. And now, in the last episode, she helped save him, but he's still her dad. In the end, he is still her dad, and she's gonna save him, even though she doesn't like what he's doing to the town of Riverdale. And then we find out who told Hiram where Vito was. It was Hermosa. So we do get Hermosa back. Hermosa is back. And we do know that she is running Lodge Industries in Miami. We haven't seen her in person yet. She was just on the phone. And he says that after he gets the Palladium, his next step is to get back his wife and daughter. And that's everything I wrote down. Now, this episode was a really good episode because we got to see more into Hiram's past. I love seeing flashbacks because I love seeing the teens, or now I guess they're adults and not teens, that will portray their parents. It's just really confusing about where it fits in the timeline. I do like the old Hiram when he was Jaime Luna. He was a good person. And I think avenging his father's death was really, really good of him, even though he's a horrible person now. And I think when the part where he's watching his ex-wife and his daughter talk about him, I can see that he doesn't like what he's hearing. And I really hope they stop having him as the villain and make him a good guy. I mean, there were always shows where the villains become good. Like in Once Upon a Time, both the Evil Queen and the Wicked Witch of the West became good people. And I would love to see that for Hiram. Because we had Hiram as a villain. Or he was in jail, and then he came back, and he said that he's going to be good. And he wasn't. And every time we think that he's getting better, they just pull him back and make him a villain again. And I'm ready to see a new villain. That's why I liked season 4, because it wasn't really about Hiram. And this season has introduced the serial killers. So I really hope next season we get a better Hiram. And I know, like, he's a main character and he's not leaving the show, so either they're gonna kick him off or make him a good person. So I think they're gonna make him a better person. This episode was really good. I also like that Reggie is now back on the good guys, and in the promo, which I will be going over tomorrow, we do see that he's teaming up with Veronica, and they're going to try to stop her father, which I'm so glad Reggie is back to where he's supposed to be. So I hope you all enjoyed today's video, and if you did, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. I try to post on here Monday through Friday, and then if you don't find me on here, you can go find me on TikTok, where I try to post every single day. My name is posted at the end of all my videos. It's also posted on my YouTube biography, and it is just my first dot, my last name, and then the numbers 9816. So go check me out. I am so close to 900 followers, so I post really cool stuff. So I will see you all. Bye.